Hello, my name is Lindsay Stilley, and I'm going to be talking about web and digital communications today. A brief overview of web and digital communications pathway is creating, designing, and producing interactive multimedia products and services for various businesses, different types of trainings, entertainment, and different types of marketing. Specifically in this pathway, one of the career opportunities that people would have is become a web developer. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, web developers' careers are expected to increase by 15% from now until 2026. It was stated that people with Adobe programs, the knowledge of those programs, have the best opportunities of landing that job. More specifically in the state of Iowa, since I'm based in Iowa, I did a little research, and Code.org provided some numbers that there are 3,600 job openings in the computer science field currently in the state, and on average in the computer science industry in Iowa, people are making $77,000 on average. One of the questions that was posed to us was why we believe that the web and digital communications pathway tends to be the most commonly implemented IT pathway. I thought this right off the top of my head before even reading the question. I was like, oh, this is a very common one. The reason I feel like it's common and it's most commonly implemented is because we're comfortable with this pathway. We have the most experience in this pathway. We're exposed to it on a daily basis. We engage with it on a daily basis whether we realize it or not. I also think that some of the things that really helps as well is all of the programs that are being taught or used are extremely user-friendly. I can recall the products that the programs that we still teach today, I learned back in high school. Obviously things have changed, but the basis of the fundamentals have not. Adobe is a big program that or it has several programs that you would learn to go down the web and digital communications pathway. Apple has a ton of products, and there's so many apps out there today that you can use to help guide down this pathway. The next two slides are just some performance elements. When you look at the web and digital communication pathway in the state of Iowa, it's broken down into two topics. The first one being web design. These are just some of the performance elements, not all. There are several more. And then graphic design is the other topic that is in the web and digital communications pathway. Again, these are just some of the performance elements, not all. So from a student's perspective, being a student currently, some of the strengths and weaknesses that I see in this pathway, specifically focusing on strengths because this is fresh to me. Last term I did a class where I got to use and I was exposed to new Adobe products. So I've used Adobe since I was in high school. I'm very comfortable with it. I have experience in it, and I think that's a strength with most students is once you learn one of the Adobe products, they all have the same basis. While they all do different things, once you know one, you can catch on to the other ones pretty quickly. So I feel like you're very comfortable and you've had that experience. I also think that the career options opportunity when it comes to web and digital communications pathway is a lot different and maybe a little bit more exciting for some people because they see what people are doing every single day when they're engaging in social media or just doing anything really digitally. Last pathway that I analyzed was the network systems pathway, and that's a lot more specific, a lot more coding and behind the scenes. So I think that the career options for the web and digital communications pathway is a lot more inviting and maybe not as scary for some students. So some weaknesses in this pathway is I think there's such high exposure. As mentioned, it is one of the most commonly implemented pathways. So a lot of people are so comfortable with it that this is where they're gravitating towards. Maybe they don't want the challenge, but this is something that they want to do because they understand it and it comes easy to them and they feel comfortable. One of the other weaknesses, though, I think, is the constant change. We see every single day on social media the trends, how things change. The turnover is very high, and it's constantly changing. So you're constantly learning and having to keep up with that. From a business educator standpoint, some strengths and weaknesses. I think some strengths, basically, that when you look at teaching web and digital communications, a a lot of your instructors are knowledgeable. They feel comfortable because they're engaging and they probably had the coursework for learning different Adobe products. I think it's intriguing to business educators. Those are some of the things that I've had fun teaching. I know when I student taught, I got to teach Dreamweaver and Photoshop, and I had a lot of fun with that. And it also opens up a lot more opportunities. So if you didn't want to teach, you can get a job a lot of other places in a lot of different types of settings with this knowledge set. Some weaknesses, like I mentioned, with the students, from the student's perspective, it's trendy. So there's constant change. You gotta constantly keep up on things, which can be exhausting. And the knowledge too, because things are changing so frequently. There's so many new apps coming out, on a daily basis, to do some of the same things that like Adobe does. Really just having the knowledge to how to operate or run all of those can be, it can be a weakness because it can become exhausting, and there's just so much out there. As far as a school district's perspective, some strengths and weaknesses, obviously it provides exposure at that level for potential career paths. Some strengths for the web and digital communications pathway is different opportunities for students. I mentioned before when I analyzed the network systems pathway, that was a very specific field. I feel like this is a little bit broader, and the opportunities for students can go anywhere. Do you have to work for Google? No, you could work for a small, business in a small town, and they still need that marketing person, and that marketing person could be somebody in web and digital communications, in this pathway. Another strength is it's one of the fastest growing career fields, so getting your students exposed to this specific pathway is only going to make them more marketable when it comes to finding a job and earning a decent living. Some weaknesses are knowledgeable certified staff. So while I feel like teachers or business educators know that they're probably going to be teaching Adobe, I think that one of the things that I struggled with was in Photoshop specifically, or like designing. Really, this could be something that works together with multiple staff, which could be a weakness. I think about like co-teaching with like maybe an art teacher or some type of design. A weakness would be trying to find how you're going to mesh those two together and really finding the time to collaborate for that, because time is always a hard thing to come by in the education setting. And then again, the budget. We all know that purchasing Adobe products is extremely expensive. Buying for a mass or for a school system, you probably get a break, but being able to offer those programs to your students is definitely going to cost some money. So should business educators be teaching this pathway? Yes, I think so. I mentioned this with the network systems pathway. I don't think it's wrong that business educators are doing it. I think it's fun. But the question really does come, when is it becoming too much? When are we going to start taking away from the marketing, from the accounting, from the business law? All of those things go hand in hand, and all of those things come in with these different types of pathways too. Because, we want to set our students up for success. They're going to need all of this knowledge. Are there other programs we could be offering? Could there be a computer science program where you're having staff that's teaching the business side of things, and then staff that's teaching the more of the IT things? I have co-teaching down because I talked about in the last slide, when it comes to graphic design, if that's the cluster or the part of the pathway for the web and digital communications that a student wants to take, what if we don't have the knowledge or the background of art? Because I don't have knowledge of that. So am I doing my student a disservice by not having a background in that and teaching them Photoshop? You can become certified in Adobe, but just having those knowledge, that knowledge of those programs is really helpful so that you are setting your students up for success. My overall perception of the web and digital communications pathway, definitely some of the strengths is we're very comfortable with it. Our students are comfortable with it. We're comfortable with it. There's tons and tons and tons of career opportunities. Different things, you can focus on videos, you can write, so there's journalism in there. You can create different types of advertisements, sound recording. There's so many different things that people can do with this pathway. I think it's just a little bit broader and gives students a lot more opportunity. And one of the biggest strengths, obviously, is the growing demand There's always going to be a demand in the computer science or the IT area, and this is just one of the pathways that students can choose to go down. One of the weaknesses of this pathway, though, I feel like, is the high turnover. There's change. There's constant change. You have to be up on trends. You have to be willing to, be okay with change, and some people aren't. So I think that's a weakness of it. The other weakness would be there's lots of interest. I think that it can become a very, very crowded pathway while there's a demand, but we have so many people going down this specific pathway, and then we have we're graduating so many students, who want to go down this way. Then we have, like the other pathway, network systems, where we don't have anybody. So that can definitely be a weakness of this pathway, I think, where people are feeling too comfortable and staying in this specific area. As far as school implementation, I obviously think this pathway should be offered. I would love to teach this specific pathway. I think it would be a lot of fun. It's challenging. I think there's a lot of opportunities for our students, and I really think that they would have a lot of fun with it. It's engaging to them. It provides an excellent opportunity for co-teaching with, an art teacher, especially when you think about design, not even just with Photoshop, but Dreamweaver. There's lots of different opportunities here. You can still become certified in computer science, so you are able to teach all of the different pathways, but just having knowledge from different Adobe products would pretty much set you up to be a good teacher for new apps that come out. There's tons of resources online, and really I think another reason that the school should implement this pathway is because of the different careers that students can have. You can see some listed on the screen, multimedia designer, web administrator, web developer, graphic designer. There's so many different routes that a student could go if they choose this pathway. The opportunities, they're endless. Here are my references for this specific pathway. Thank you.